Welcome to the pit of ultimate darkness. I'm Chuck Lindsay. Joining me as always, my manservant Hecubus. Join us this week as we talk about 4 tales of ultimate blood-curdling horror. It's gonna be awesome. This is Chuckload of Comics. Hey guys, welcome to Chuckload of Comics. Chuckload of Comics.
Chuckload of Comics.
Halloween's almost here, guys, so we figured, hey, let's do a Halloween show.
Right?
Let's talk about horror comic books.
Duh. What else do you do on Halloween? And who else do you dress up as except for Simon and Hecubus?
From Kids in the Hall. Little Kids in the Hall joke there at the beginning. Welcome to the Dungeon of Ultimate Despair. So we got 4 books we want to tell you guys about. 4 of our favorite horror comic books. A little bit of a, what would we call it? A warning, perhaps? A bit of a disclaimer. If you have kids watching this show, you might want to turn it off because a lot of these books have got some pretty graphic visual content that we might be sharing with you. So consider this your warning. Especially this one right here.
Evil!
Evil.
Evil!
A lot of evil. Mm-hmm. We're about to unload all over your face, neck and chest. So, it's nice pale makeup you got over there.
Thanks.
This is a good look for you.
Really?
You're goth. Goth talk.
So you're saying I should stop going to the beach?
I'm just saying, pale is good. Pale is always good. So, yeah. So we got 4 books. These are our 4 favorite horror books. There's lots of horror books out there. I love horror books.
They're great.
They're fun, man. The horror genre, probably one of my favorite genres.
I agree.
Both in movies, TV, and written literature.
Yeah.
Written literature.
There's obviously a lot more that we enjoy that aren't on this table, but we figured we kind of, they're all ongoing. We talk about them anyway already, so we figured we'd talk about some trades that we have that we love.
Yeah, some of these are kind of older books, but they're well worth picking up because they're scary as hell. So let's get started. This one right here. This is a book called Colder.
Oh, so good.
It's by Paul Tobin and art by Juan Ferreira. I love Juan Ferreira's art. The art in this book is the stuff of nightmares.
I know, it's literal nightmares.
The guy, Juan Ferreira's got a sick mind. The stuff that he comes up with is insane. This is some scary imagery in this book. And the writing by Paul Tobin is phenomenal.
Yep.
Basically what the story is, and help me out if I'm getting this wrong. It's been a while since I read this book. But a guy by the name of Declan Thomas, he's he used to be in an insane asylum.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And he has this weird power where he can, does he touch you and he can pull, he can cure insanity.
Right.
Basically.
And he absorbs it, kind of. So
Insanity.
he goes between these worlds of insanity and reality, and it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's really cool. And they're constantly, him and his girlfriend are being stalked by this kind of demonic, goofy, creepy character.
Yeah.
A
mixture of Joker and I don't know, just super creepy guy.
Yeah. So it's just kind of the story of them. They visit parallel horror dimensions where there's some monsters that are constantly chasing them. They're just scary as all hell. The art's absolutely insane. I don't know what more I can say about this book.
Yeah. This one here is the first arc, and then they had a second arc and a third arc. So they're all only 5 issues long, I think.
There's a third arc?
Yeah, we read the third one.
Oh, okay.
That's when Nimble Jack came back.
That's right. Nimble Jack is the, I was trying to think of his name this whole time.
The evil guy.
He's the evil guy who's stalking him, and he's such a fantastic original character.
I know.
A lot of times you don't see original, iconic characters that come out of these independent books. It's not independent, I think it's a Dark Horse book. Yeah. Maybe it's an Image.
Nope, it's Dark Horse.
Dark Horse.
Yeah.
Always good for some scares.
Right?
So Colder, definitely check it out. The art, if for the art alone, Juan Ferreira's art's absolutely
amazing.
Amazing. I became a huge fan of his after reading Colder. Then I saw him on Gotham by Midnight.
Oh,
he did that book for a little while for DC.
That's right.
And then he went on and he did Suicide Squad. He did a run of Suicide Squad, and his art's amazing.
Did you, Juan?
Yeah, Juan's crushing it. It all started with this book. I think it started here. But that's where we got introduced to him. So check out Colder for sure.
Yeah.
Next book, Wytches.
Oh, Wytches. Scott Snyder.
Scott Snyder, who is like not only a fantastic comic book writer, he's also a novelist. He's world renowned as one of the best comic book writers out there.
And he's a super nice guy.
He's a crazy. We met him. Here's a picture of us. We met him at
C2E2.
C2E2, and we stalked him. He was on his way to. He also wrote. He wrote the Batman run recently in the New 52 run, and so he was on his way to a panel at C2E2, and we saw him, and we kind of chased him, and we.
But he was
him.
more than welcoming our following and stalking him, and then he even invited us to come into the panel with him. Even it was a packed panel, there was no more room, but he was gonna like bring us in there anyway.
We had places to be.
But we said thank you, and he went, "Oh, I understand."
But yeah, he told us about the next run of Wytches.
Yes.
This is the first story arc. You can still find it. It just got released. Well, not just, but it's been released in trade paperback form.
Yep.
So you can get it, and you should. It's probably maybe one of the best horror books ever written.
So good.
Maybe.
I could say that. Definitely one of the best that I've ever read.
The writing, it's an emotional story about a family who moves to this small town in New Hampshire trying to start over. Something really bad happens to them in their past, so they move to this small town and they're trying to start over. What they don't realize is that this small town, in the woods of this small town, is a legion of witches that live in the forest. Forest witches. Worst kind of witch. Because...
Forest tree witches, you know.
I mean, come on. The art, I mean, it's a dark book. The art is by a guy named Jock, and the art's insanity. It's
one name, like Bono.
Jock. I think it's Jock. It might be Jock. But anyway, the art by Jock is mind-bogglingly great. The color is amazing. It's dark. You could read this without any words, and it would be scary as hell.
It's a pretty great book.
The way that they create these witches who are living in the woods, living in the forest, in the trees, stalking this family, and also the townspeople are aware that the witches live in the woods. They know it's haunted, and they don't tell the new Rooks family that some crazy shit's happening in the woods. But it's absolutely amazing. Scott Snyder, if everything this guy does is gold.
Yep. Speaking of which, sorry.
One more thing about Wytches before we move on. It's being optioned. It's been picked up to be a film.
What?
Brad Pitt's company,
Plan B,
is making this into a film.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
So look for Wytches coming to a theater near you.
Holy cow.
Perhaps.
I'm
and
sure
it's
it'll
a fantastic
be
story.
Brad Pitt then.
I could see that. I could totally see Brad Pitt playing the father in this book.
Yeah,
that would actually be great casting. Because I love Brad Pitt, and who doesn't?
Who doesn't love Brad Pitt?
It's a weird thing for me to say when I'm wearing my eyeliner and the lipstick, talking about how much I love Brad Pitt. Scary. I'm trying to be scary today.
Scary. Evil.
Check out Wytches. Check out Colder. Shauna?
Speaking of, as Chuck was saying, Scott Snyder is an amazing writer. This book, American Vampire, written by Scott Snyder and... who, other than the king of horror himself, Stephen King.
That should be his tagline. King of horror, Stephen King.
Can you imagine a book written by Stephen King and Scott Snyder? Here it is, people.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So
it's everything you could think about.
So essentially, like vampires, we've seen. We've done the vampire thing before. Stake through the heart, Transylvania, all that stuff. This is a very, very, very different take on vampires. It treats vampires like they are just a standard race of people. There's different types of vampires. Vampires that come from different places have different powers and different weaknesses. There's there's a world of different breeds of vampires.
Okay.
The classic Transylvania vampire is what you're used to. You can't go out in the sunlight, stab him in the chest with a stake and kill him. But this introduces a new breed of vampire, the American vampire. A vampire that was created in America. And they can go out in the sunlight. They don't have the same, they're weakened, they're at their weakest state during the full moon. So that's when you can attack them and kill them. But when it's not a full moon, they will ruin your world. They're like one of the more powerful vampires out there. And as Shauna said, it's written by Stephen King and Scott Snyder. How it happens, there's two stories going on in this book. One takes place in like 1920s Los Angeles, the heyday of American film, like the golden age of American film. Scott Snyder is writing that part of the story, and it surrounds this one actress who gets caught up in this world of vampires. The other story that's told takes place in the Old West, and that's one Stephen King writes. Stephen King writes the Old West part of the vampire story, and that's where you learn where the American vampire was spawned. It was spawned, a guy by the name of Skinner Sweet is the main character, the main American vampire. So it tells his story of how he came to be back in the Old West, and it constantly jumps back and forth from the Roaring 20s to the Old West, and it's the same story of this one vampire, and then it grows and grows and grows, and you get introduced to all these other different breeds of vampires that come from different places in the world.
But even though it's two stories, kind of like two separate stories that intertwine, they connect so well just because these two guys are amazing writers. So.
Yeah, two of the finest writers on the planet today joined together for American Vampire. And I got to talk about the art by Raphael Albuquerque. Dude's art's insane. This is not your classic Nosferatu vampire. This is blood-curdling, scary stuff. These vampires are monsters. This isn't Twilight. They're not these pretty, they're monsters. They will literally bite your head off and cast it to the wolves. It's insane. I mean, the art's scary. This is one of those page turners where the story is so fantastic, but the art just jumps off the page at you. And yeah, this is a really scary vampire book. I don't usually get scared from vampires, but this is a scary book. Just the way that it's drawn and the way that it's written. Scott Snyder and Stephen King.
I know!
Come
I
on.
just can't. That's like the dream team.
Yep. So, American Vampire. This one right here.
Lock and Key.
Lock and Key. A little bit, not as blood-curdlingly terrifying as the first three. It's a little bit more of a fantasy kind of a book. Ghosts.
Yep.
That sort of thing. Shauna?
Oh, it's awesome. It's about this family who, no spoilers here, but their father passes away.
Yes.
And
it happens like right at the beginning of the book.
Happens. So, and they move into this creepy house that's owned, it's just been in their family for a very long time. And then it's about all these keys that are in the house that open up these different doors and different dimensions. And you just don't know. Each key does something different that you're not sure what happens.
Yeah, it's this giant. This family moves into this gothic mansion, and inside it's a magical place. This gothic mansion. It's called Key House, and so when they're there, they start finding these little artifacts and these keys that are hidden around the house. And like Shauna was saying, all the different keys that they find do different things. Like one of the keys turns you into a ghost, and you can cruise through life as a ghost. Other keys make you huge. Other keys make
turn you into the opposite gender.
Yeah, there's one that changes your form, makes you. It's an amazing idea. It's written by Joe Hill,
who is, if you don't know, Stephen King's son.
Stephen King's son,
It seems like we
Joe
have a theme
Hill.
going here, huh?
If you've never read any novels by Joe Hill, you're missing out. One of my favorites that he wrote is a book called Heart-Shaped Box.
Wow, that's great.
It's a short book, but it's a scary-ass book. It's probably scarier than anything Stephen King has ever written.
No, that's not true. Well, but it stands on its own.
I don't know, man. That book, because it's such a small book, it gets you right away.
Yeah.
It's creepy. Joe Hill's writing style is very, very scary stuff.
Yep. And he definitely stands on his own. He doesn't have to use his father as a
no. He's a fantastic novelist,
Mm-hmm.
amazing comic book writer. He's written a few other comic books, Wraith, which is killer comic book. So yeah, and this one is also it's going to be a show on Hulu.
Yeah.
It's been picked up. It was tossed around a lot. It was going to be a movie. It was going to be a 3-part movie. I think that kind of got the kibosh.
And they even filmed a pilot a couple years ago.
Filmed a pilot. You can go on YouTube and look for Lock and Key pilot.
Yeah.
And it's out there. You can watch the pilot for Lock and Key. They never got picked up by Fox, but they did make a pilot, and there is a promo out there. You should check it out. But it's a fantastic book. It's a lot more lighthearted.
Yeah.
If you do have kids and you're trying to get them into horror comics, this is a good one to kind of start out with.
Into horror comics.
Probably not good parenting advice right there. But yeah, it's Hulu has picked it up. They're going to make a Hulu show out of it, and it demands a show.
Yeah.
This show could run forever because it's a haunted house full of
mysterious,
magical stuff.
Yeah, it's really
cool. It's great. It's fantastic. It's a wonderful, wonderful book. Interesting little side note about Joe Hill.
Yeah.
I was reading Pet Sematary, the re-release of Pet Sematary, Stephen King's Pet Sematary, and he talks about in the author's notes that Joe Hill is Pet Sematary is kind of based on a real life experience of Stephen King staying in this little house with a pet cemetery in the back and a road full of trucks. Gage, who gets killed in Pet Sematary, spoiler alert, is based on
evil.
I am evil.
Evil.
Is based on Joe Hill, Stephen King's son, who actually ran out on the road and almost got killed by one of the trucks.
That's crazy.
Little side note.
That's
I thought you guys might like to know.
Yeah. It's interesting how he writes in real life experiences.
It is. So check out all these books, man. Horror books are great. A lot of times comic book shops will have a separate horror section. Cruise through it. A lot of times it's an overlooked section.
It is.
In your comic shop. Everybody just goes to what's new this week and they don't hit the horror section.
Yep.
And that's where you would find all of these.
Absolutely.
And they're well worth your time. They're well worth your money.
And there's several that are on our pull list that are currently running, like Regression and Harrow County and Baby Teeth. These are all books you would find in your horror section, but we figured we'd talk about those a lot since they're ongoing and on our pull list.
We're gonna have to do like a horror volume 2 show, because there's some other horror books out there that are on our pull list that we just adore, that we buy every single week. Baby Teeth, Regression, Ash versus Evil Dead.
Duh.
Come on, Harrow County, Cullen Bunn. That's a fantastic horror book.
But I like the fact we wanted to highlight some of them that aren't current right now. Go get the trades.
Check them all out, man. Just to recap, Lock and Key, fantastic fantasy book about ghosts, American Vampire, blood-curdling, chilling vampire tale, Wytches in the Woods.
Right? Duh. Scary.
Scott Snyder, fantastic writing, amazing art by Jacques, and of course, Colder. Juan Ferreira's art will absolutely blow your freaking mind. Oh, so good, man. I love talking about these books. I want to reread them all again.
I know.
But thanks for watching.
Yeah.
This has been a fun, terrifying show.
Fun, terrifying show.
Join us here next week, next Sunday, in the Pit of Ultimate Darkness.
Yes!
Where we'll be talking about God knows what.
Rainbows and ponies.
We're going to review My Little Pony next week on Chuckload of Terror. So happy Halloween, everybody.
Yes, happy Halloween.
Have fun. Give lots of kids candy. And,
subscribe.
Oh, yeah, and hit the subscribe button. Anyway, this has been fun. See you guys here next Sunday.
Goodbye now.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. We got a lot of other good shows on the YouTube channel, so check them out. We got like that one and that one. Lots of good stuff. Thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button for more episodes every single week. See you later.